Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
I don't know what your process is, so
Yeah.
well, I guess there's no process.
There is no process, and that's what this is all about. My friends, welcome to the first podcast episode of Undoing Perfectionism. My name is James. I am a guitarist, a painter, a programmer, and a self-confessed perfectionist. I undertake challenges, and as of this podcast, I now interview people about the creative process and how we can learn from other people and what we've experienced on how we can improve that process and get awesome projects out in both our hobby and professional lives. So, welcome Jackson Cheng.
Thank you for having me.
No
as
worries.
The first experimental guest.
Yes. Yes. We both have not been on podcasts before, so it's all about trying new things and seeing what we can get out of it. So, Jackson, who are you?
Well, I am, I guess, a photographer, a designer, and then I guess starting to do filmmaking as well. So I guess a filmmaker as well.
Cool.
So
Awesome.
yeah, I don't know where to start.
That's it.
There's just so many different things, little things that I do. So,
Yeah. Heaps of creative things that you do. So how did we actually meet?
Ooh, I don't even know how long. Maybe like 10. I was saying 10 years now, I think.
Oh yeah, so it was a while ago.
Yeah,
Yeah.
So I think it'll be in the metal scene. So yeah, I also play music, so I'm a musician as well.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that's how we met, because we were both playing in bands at that time in the metal scene.
Mm-hmm.
And it was a small group of people, and people just bump into each other, and
That's
then we
it.
start talking about traveling and hiking, and that's how we met.
That's it. Next
Yeah.
minute we're hiking nearly every weekend.
Yeah, pretty much.
I think I actually met your brother first though.
Yeah, probably. He was in the metal scene before me,
Right.
so and I think he was just connecting with a lot of people.
Yeah.
Before that, to get into metal scene.
Yeah, I think I maybe like heard of you also being in bands, and then I think you just like rocked up at like my bandmate's house one day, and I was like, there he is, there's Jackson. Yeah.
Wait, who was that? Which...
At Pez and Joe's place.
Oh, right. I remember that party.
Yeah.
Yes, that's it. Okay.
I think that
right. Yeah.
So yeah, awesome. So yeah, we both played music in the metal scene in Brisbane for years and years. Played lots of shows together and stuff. It was awesome. But what I wanted to start with the first kind of question to get things rolling is to what was actually the first creative thing that you had in your life, whether it was like as a kid or as a teenager that you like kind of took up. Was it playing music or was it something else?
No, music came pretty late in my life. So probably like when I was... Well, actually, no. Well, my parents actually pushed us into playing music at really early age.
Okay.
So we started with pianos and stuff like that.
Oh yeah.
But I never really got into it, never really liked it, because I think it was just forced into it.
Ah, okay.
So it was just every week just be piano lessons. So it's kind of just going through the routine of just learning and practicing, but nothing really got into my head.
Yeah.
There was no interest. And then it was only until, I don't know, maybe like end of high school, I think, where I started listening to music and liking music, because I didn't like music before, which is really weird to say.
Because you were playing piano like every week or every day.
Yeah. And then it was the point where I just didn't want to play piano anymore. And then our parents were like, oh, like you want to stop playing piano, you got to choose another instrument. And then we picked up the guitar. And even at that point, I still didn't like playing guitar. It was just forced into it.
Okay.
And then started listening to heavy metal music. Well, the discovery of heavy metal music from a DVD of Woodstock 98, I think.
Yeah.
99, one of those ones. And I just heard like Limp Bizkit, and I think Kid Rock, Korn, and I think Metallica was there as well. Mm-hmm. And yeah, when I heard Korn, Blind, that was the song that got me into it. That was the one. It's like when it came on stage playing that intro, it's like, oh my god, what is this?
Yeah.
I need to know more about this.
So good.
And that's when I start, getting into music and getting into metal.
So cool. So was that, that was like the one thing that that really stood out to you that you still remember being like an entry into a new world, basically?
Oh yeah, it was just that song, just that intro, and then it's like, holy shit,
Straight away.
and I knew that I'm like, I need to know more about this.
Yeah.
And that's when I started playing guitar because I want to play the same thing as they did, and yeah. But that was just the music. But then like I always, did drawing, sketching before that forever. So before I even remember, so I was always been drawing.
So compared to the music, you said that your parents forced you into the piano and then even still forced you a little bit into the guitar. So what about the drawing? Was that forced onto you, or was that more of like an outlet for you, or did you kind of discovered that yourself?
No, that was just one of those things that's just been constant in my life. Like there wasn't force or anything. There wasn't any reason, why I started doing it. But it was just something that I did.
Yeah.
And I think I just like, well, I guess like I like reading comic books. And I think I just wanted to draw like those people, the characters that I see in comic books, and I think that just started the drawing and sketching part.
So like from pretty young, you'd say like before you were a teenager, or just around teenage age?
I think way before.
Yeah.
Basically as soon as I could read.
Yeah.
I think. So I don't even know where it started.
Okay. That's interesting because they, both creative things, the music and the drawing, yet your parents for some reason wanted to force you into the, the music.
Yeah.
And then, but you found them more, I mean, you said the drawing's always just kind of been there.
Yeah.
So in your drawing, I know that you still draw now, and I'll like get into a little bit of that because I know some things that I'm going to pick at with that.
Okay.
I mean, it's, you've become a designer, which is partly drawing.
Yeah.
So from the younger age, do you remember it ever being something that you felt proud about what you were making, or was it always just like release and you'd just be doing it, or was it something that you like had visions about what you wanted to get to and you were trying to get, your work to a certain level, or how would you describe that?
The drawing part. So no, that wasn't really, I think the goal was just to be as good as those people, those artists in comic books.
Okay, cool.
I think that was the goal.
Yeah.
That wasn't much more than that. Like, I wasn't thinking about profession. I wasn't thinking about, what can I do with this set of skills. It was just like, I like what I see and I just want to copy it.
Yeah.
And that was what drove me to actually just keep practicing. So I'll have like sketchbooks of just, I keep all my sketchbooks and I just have, pile of sketchbooks of just drawing like superhero figures.
Yeah, man.
Like faces, muscles, and all the little details. Just the same thing over and over again.
Yeah.
And I think I was kind of obsessed just to try to get it right.
Okay. That's interesting. So what, do you feel like you ever got to that level that you were chasing of trying to draw like them? And what do you interpret as being getting it right?
I think I did get close to that level. I think. But yeah, obviously, I don't know what right means because it could be meaning anything. But I think I did get to a point where I was very competent at drawing like human figures.
Yeah, cool.
Like without even, I can just like, see in my head, I can just draw it straight away.
So cool.
Right. So I don't even need like a reference. I don't need to look at anything. It's just whatever's in my head, I can just produce.
Yeah.
And obviously now I don't draw, as much as I did. So it's just not as good anymore.
Okay. So to get to that level, what was it that kept you, like, obviously you wanted to get to that level, or what you felt was right? Were there like, other than just looking at comic book characters and stuff, was there anything that you did to get those extra steps closer to that? Like, did you like have lessons, or did you have some sort of process that you went through, like, today I'm going to focus on hands and try and work through trying to get that? Did you do anything like that about breaking it down to get a little bit further? Yeah,
so, well, I guess, my dad is also an artist as well, so he did a lot of drawing and sketching,
cool.
like airbrush. So I think that kind of seeped in a little bit, like, because he did show, like, wasn't really directly teaching us, more of like indirect, like explaining like art concepts and sketching techniques and stuff like that. So like the perspective and the 3D, understanding of depth, and the perspective was ingrained. So that was a good first step.
Awesome.
And then he also had a lot of those sketch like art books with sketches of anatomy and stuff like that. And that was basically my Bible. I was just like studied those anatomy books.
Yeah.
And yeah, and then basically just following those and just trying to sketch every little body part, part by part. So it'd be like hands, shoulders, like the arms, and then the body, and then lower body, and then the head.
Yeah.
Yeah, and basically just just like separating parts, right, and then eventually combining all together.
Yeah.
In a trying to create some movement and all that stuff, and yeah, and then you just get the whole body.
So good.
Eventually.
That reminded me of Voltron for a sec there. And now I'll form the head.
Yeah, but the head was always the hardest.
Yeah.
Because like the head is not something you can get away with because we're just so. I think that was the most, like the part that I was most obsessed with, because it's the hardest to get right.
Okay.
Because we're just so used to, we're humans. We're so used to recognizing faces.
Yeah.
And anything that's wrong with the face, you'll pick up straight away.
Right.
And so I was really obsessed with that. And you can kind of get away with like, hands and bodies and stuff like that. And yeah, but the face.
The face, yeah. If the nose is in the face,
yeah, the eyes like slightly off is weird, and the chin, or
Yeah.
So yeah.
So when you drew the most as a kid or as a young adult, you're using the word obsessed a lot. So you just did like obsessed with it.
Yeah.
So when you're like in that obsession, let's say, at that time when you were drawing the most, would the weekend comprise of anything where you would be like, I need to read this book, or I need to ask dad something, or I need to do X? Or was it just like almost like you were kind of detached and that you just like went to the book and you went to the pad and you would just kind of go? Or did you ever stop and think at different points and make decisions?
No, it was literally just finish school.
Yeah.
Or even at school. When I get bored, just draw.
Yeah.
And then when I get home, I'll just draw.
Yeah.
And on a weekend, I'll just draw.
Yeah.
Like any spare time, just drawing, and that was it. And that was the same with music as well.
Okay.
Like, so it was like drawing, and then I got obsessed with music and practicing. So after school, like maybe grade 11 or 12, I'd just be like home, lock myself in the room, get the metronome.
Yeah.
And then start doing the scales, doing the riffs and stuff over and over again until I get it right, build a speed.
So good.
Yeah. And that was it. Like, that was my, nighttime during the week, and that was my weekends.
Yeah.
I didn't really go out or see anybody.
Oh, man.
Which is probably bad for social skills and interactions, and there was no social life. It was just that thing.
Oh, man. It. But to the level that you got with your drawing and your music is just like amazing that you could just go. I think the way I've got onto this journey is that I think I've always stopped far too much and been like asking, or like, looking at what my work is and what I'm doing, rather than being letting myself get ingrained with it and continue.
Do you deliberately stop yourself? Like, do you just consciously stop yourself, or you just felt...
This is what I'm trying to work out,
Okay, right, okay.
It's like, deciding that I'm a perfectionist is that weird thing where it's like, what is it that's making me stop producing work?
Right.
So like you say, you drew like the same figure like over and over again because you're trying to get to like a level, whereas I would not finish a song because I wanted that one song to get to a level,
right,
instead of finishing songs and learning through that process,
But I think there's like a little bit difference, right? Like, so I think social media changed a lot of things.
Okay.
Right. Because like social media kind of pushed you to produce a lot of content.
Right.
Whereas back in the day, there's no social media, so your content never actually has to be produced.
Okay.
And I think that's like a different pressure per se, because like I don't know if I would publish all my processes back in the day.
Yeah.
But now, I guess I got the benefit of not having social media, so now I got to a point where it's just like I can produce something that I can actually post. It's more closer to the final product.
So you did the drawing and you did the music stuff, but then I guess once social media kind of started getting around, you became a professional.
Right.
Somewhere along there as a designer.
Yeah.
And you've taken up photography, and the filmmaking is upcoming. I know with the photography especially, now the stuff that you produce is world class and it's amazing. And you were hit up by Xiaomi, who found you on Instagram.
On Instagram
because the quality of your stuff is at such a level. They're like, holy shit, we need to get this guy. So now that you are kind of at that point with your photography, when did you start getting into photography, by the way?
I think maybe I got my first DSLR camera, which is a Canon 5D Mark II, maybe 5 years ago, I think.
Yeah.
But I didn't really use it. Like, I had the interest, but I wasn't obsessed. I wasn't crazy about it.
So
I had
it
the
was
interest.
so it was different to how you felt about drawing and music initially. It wasn't as obsessive.
It was a slow build up.
Okay.
But it came from, my interest in hiking. You know, just seeing, like, hiking with you, just going to all these cool locations. And I'm like, I need to capture this somehow.
Yeah.
And then that drove me into photography because, like, I just want to share that to people, and it's hard to explain like a landscape to people, right? Like, you got trees and it's like some lake here, and it's like, oh, it looks really amazing.
Yeah.
It just doesn't do it justice. And even like the camera now is just like, yes, it's better at showing it, but it still doesn't do it justice. So I guess that's why I kind of started film making as well.
You want to get closer.
I want to get closer to actually, capturing those moments.
Yeah.
But that's a different topic. But so like.
So do you think like with the photography, and now you're saying like you want to move to filmmaking to get closer to that, do you think you've kind of fallen back into that obsessive kind of feeling to get into the film thing, or are you a little bit feel like you're a little bit less obsessive and there's a bit different approach, more of a different approach to it now?
Well, the film is a little bit different because it is so much more time consuming.
Okay.
And there's a lot more work to actually produce, a video. And I think I'm still trying to figure out if that's something I want to do. Okay. Like, I like doing it.
Yes.
But it's kind of like 50-50 at this point. So maybe it's a slow burn. So maybe like photography, maybe I'll embrace it a lot more later on.
Yeah.
But right now it's definitely more so photography.
Okay.
Yeah. And I think that's my main focus at this point.
To learn and improve in that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because, and like, I did like a Instagram post, and it wasn't like, I was just good at it. Photography, it took like years. Because I think I did one where I was just showing every year my photos on Instagram when I started.
Yeah.
And there's just so much change every single year.
For sure.
Yeah. And so it's definitely a slow build up over like the last 4 years.
But even still, 4 years is like, that's like a university degree, and you're doing it in your spare time. So like I remember seeing that on Instagram and just thinking like, man, holy shit, you just like, oh, I'm gonna start taking photos, and next thing you've just like got to this level. And this is one of the reasons why I've like thought you'd be great for like this first episode, because it's like, man, you've everything that you've done, you've always done really well. Right. Maybe because you've got like thousands of pictures like stowed away that you've never put on Instagram, the way you were learning everything. But like, just trying to think about, do you think that there's just like an attitude, like separate to obsession, about like the process of how you were learning those things, of how you learnt drawing and then how you learnt music, that you then took and applied when you started to take up photography? Because you said it was less obsessive with the photography, but there's still something there that's obviously given you enough of a drive, or you've been able to understand how to learn photography. So as photography was taken up just 4 or 5 years ago now. Yeah. When you were starting to learn, what were the things that how did you just start to approach that?
Yeah, I think there's like there's definitely like a common thread between learning all these random skills. Right? Like, I like the 80-20 approach, like finding that 20% that produces 80% of the result. Okay. So it's like, what is, say with photography, like what are the basic principles of photography, really? Okay. So photography is like just break it down, it's like basically painting with light. Okay. Right, so the term basically gives you the definition of what photography actually is. So it's like painting. You need to understand what painting is. Yeah. And then what light is. Yeah. And so with the light, you just need to understand the science of like the exposure, with the aperture, shutter speed, and then the ISO, and then how to balance that to take a photo. And then with painting, you just need to understand composition. So now and then you break it down to what are the main things that produce the best composition as as the basis, like just to start with.
Yeah.
Right. So say with the light part and understanding that, there's not really much way around that. You just have to learn that.
Okay.
And there's only 3 things you really need to worry about at the start.
Yeah.
And to start with, so that's just 3 things.
Mm-hmm.
So that's like 100% of the result on that side.
Yeah.
And then with the composition, there's only really like a few main principles of composition that you can just use over and over again. You see it over and over again, which is like the rule of thirds, and then symmetry, and then like a little addition of the things that I like is just the idea of just shooting low. And that has like a byproduct.
Shooting what, sorry?
Shooting low at a low angle.
Oh, okay.
So instead of like shooting at eye level, you shoot at like waist level or lower.
I've not even heard of that before, yeah.
Yeah, so...
Not that I'm a photographer, but I've not...
Yeah, so that's one of the things that kind of gives you like a byproduct of producing, I guess, a bit more unique perspective in your photos.
Mm-hmm.
So I guess, I guess the way to explain it is just like, so when you shoot low, so the things I always try to do is to create depth in the photography. And it's hard to do that when you're shooting high because you've got nothing in front, right? So when you shoot low, there's always something on the ground, usually.
Yeah. Right.
So I try to have like 3 layers when you shoot low. So it's like I try to have 3 layers, and by shooting low, you can create those 3 layers. So you have the foreground or the middle ground, which is the subject, and then the background. And so by having 3 layers, you create this layers of depth in your photo. And that's the byproduct. And also by shooting low, you create like this unique perspective that you don't normally see every single day, because most people, what they do is shoot at eye level.
Right. Okay.
Right. So by just changing the angle, you just create something already different.
That's so cool, man.
Yeah. So it's like a byproduct of just, just one simple thing that just creates something so, a bit different already.
That's it. So
without even thinking about it.
Yeah. So that concept, was that something that you picked up early when you started taking photos? Like were there some photos that you were doing and then you could see after you learnt that where the quality of your, like the outcomes changed because of learning that?
Yeah, the outcome. Yeah, so like just I guess like goes back to like being obsessed with a certain topic. Like I was just obsessed with photography, so I just try to break down what all these other photographers that I like on Instagram or on like different websites or like in books, what they're actually doing. And what I realized is just like a similar pattern to all these photographers, how to take photos.
Okay.
Like I guess the style that I like anyway.
Yes. And
they're all doing very similar things.
Is that across the board from taking the shot to editing as well, or is it a little bit different?
Well, that's more so the composition part. So like they all do very similar things in composition.
Okay.
Right. Obviously, they're not rules and stuff like that. They're like guidelines to help you produce.
Right.
A better results per se. There are other things you can do, in different styles for photography.
Yep.
But that's just like the starting point, right? So once you get that starting point, you can start expressing, that's the 20%.
Okay, cool.
And then from that, you can just expand into doing other things, however you like. You can start, breaking the rules and just changing things around, just do whatever you want.
So good. So was it from when you started doing photography? Obviously social media was then a thing already. Did you start releasing stuff on your even personal Instagram immediately as soon as you made stuff, or was there a while to where you felt like you got to a level before you started posting them?
No, I started posting pretty much straight away.
Okay.
Because it's funny because I know that I go with the idea that I can always improve.
Yeah.
And all I can do is just do the best I can at that particular time.
Yeah.
And so I think that came from just, just playing, just drawing and just playing music, right?
Yeah.
I know that when I first start, I suck.
Yeah.
And I can only do the best that I can, and that was it. That's all I can do.
Yeah.
And just seeing a whole archive of, say, my drawing and my music, just seeing improvement over time, there's just nothing there's there's no such thing as perfection.
Yes.
Right. And so, and that's it. That's, just acknowledging, understanding that it's that's the best I can do, and it's just, I'll post it. But it's not like skipping, like, it's not like I'm skipping on certain things or like just being lazy or just being careless. It's like, that's just the best I could do.
It's just being comfortable with where you're at and just being like going. And
yeah. And
so when you were working on some of, say, your early photographs before you posted them on Instagram or whatever, so you said there was like a kind of level that you felt like this is ready to go out. Was there ever times where you felt, or where maybe you didn't post a photograph because you felt like you couldn't get it to that level?
Yeah, a lot of times.
Okay.
Yeah, well, like that's the thing about like a social media and I guess publish products, right?
Yes.
You only see the final results. You don't see how many failed attempts.
Yes.
As well. So like, yeah, so like say when I'm doing like a portrait shoot or like say headshot, right? So some people would be like, oh, I don't look so good. Like I'm not good in front of camera. I'm not, won't be good as the models and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And I'll be like, yeah, I shot models before and I took like thousands, up to 1,000 shots to maybe, 1,000 to 2,000 shots to maybe pick like 3 photos.
Yeah, wow.
And that's a model. So, and, once you take that many shots, you're definitely going to hit, a few good ones.
Right.
And so it doesn't really matter.
Because you've done so much.
You've done so much. And so you definitely find like a good shot somewhere. So that's the same thing with like, with landscape or like travel documentaries. It's like there's so many shots that's not being used. And I tried editing and it just didn't work out.
I can't imagine for, like David Attenborough documentaries, how many hours of footage they must have to get those amazing shots of the animals,
Oh yeah,
like fighting and all those kinds of things.
Yeah, those things like are incredible. I don't even know, like the amount of patience.
Yeah. And
just the amount of time to edit and find those footage and get to those locations. The whole production of it is just insane.
So good.
Yeah, so good.
Yeah, so I want to try and like dig a little bit deeper on that level that you're talking about, or like when something's ready. Because for me, calling myself a perfectionist, it's that feeling that nothing's ever like ready. And like I have released songs with bands before, but particularly with songs in the bands, I'd be working on something and it's not ready, and then a lot of the stuff, my last band, we were together for 4 years and we released 6 songs, and they were just demos or whatever. So you say sometimes you'll take thousands of photos and you might get 3 out of that you feel are like ready. With those ones that are like on the borderline, is it like very clear as to what makes it ready or not, or can you kind of feel it, or is there just like, do you have like a checklist that you kind of have that makes something feel ready, just like with photography for starters?
Well, there's no checklist. It's more so a feeling, but then on top of that, the more important part is actually having a deadline.
Okay.
That's the main thing.
Yep.
Like, so say for music, when we released our album, we booked in our recording session, maybe like when we have like maybe I think 4 songs done. And then we gave ourselves like basically like I think 3 months.
Okay.
To write the album.
And then that's it.
And that was it.
Yeah.
That was brutal.
Yeah.
Like we were writing when we were still recording.
Yeah.
Like we didn't sleep for like 2 weeks just writing the album while we were recording at the same time. And the vocals were just last minute.
Yeah.
Like finished recording all the instruments.
You have 3 days left, that's it.
3 days left. And then the vocals were just coming in as we were like recording the instruments. And I was like, oh yeah, that's cool. Yep, that's good. And then we recorded. So that was like the deadline. It's not because we felt like it was ready. It was just like, it had to be ready.
Okay, cool. Yeah.
And so, and it's the same thing with like, say, photography, with social media. Like the way, well, I don't think like, so first, like, I don't think social media is good or bad. It's really just a tool of how you use it.
Yes.
And so the way that I choose to use it is use it as a way to keep me disciplined and to motivate me to keep posting, as a way to give myself some sort of invisible peer pressure.
Nice.
Which doesn't actually exist.
Yes.
To just keep posting because I feel like I have to.
Yeah.
And so when I started doing that, maybe I think a year and a half or 2 years ago,
Mm-hmm.
I feel like my skill level, my level kind of like went up a lot faster because I was like, okay, I was making commitment to myself that I was going to post at least 2 photos a week.
Yep.
And that was the deadline.
Yeah.
2 photos every single week.
Yep. Doesn't matter. Just get it
Doesn't
done.
matter, just get it done.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so because I did that, it had to be the best I could do at that time for the 2 photos every single week. And then that was it. And so you just improve over time. So that's how I choose to use social media.
Awesome.
Yeah. And obviously, the likes is kind of nice, the comments are nice and stuff like that. But like, that's the second. But that's one of the things I kind of play tricks using those like cognitive tricks.
Yeah, of course.
Against myself and for myself. So, yeah. So I guess some people get consumed in it, but I think the trick is just, just use it.
Use it how you want.
Yeah, use it how you want.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So leading up to making that decision, was there something going on about like how you were producing your photography at the time that made you make the decision to be like, hey, the deadlines worked really well with the music. Maybe I'm going to do this. Inflict this on myself. Is basically what you did.
Yeah.
Do you feel like you weren't producing as much work as you wanted to at the time, or you weren't learning enough?
Yeah, because I think at that time I was like seeing all these other photographers, right? I was going through the Instagram feed.
Yeah.
Like just amazing photographers. And then seeing like how many posts they actually did to get to that point that they are like high level. Mm-hmm. It's like thousands of photos.
Yes.
And I was at that time like maybe like 100 photos or so.
Yeah.
So I was thinking like, okay, at this rate, if I was to post 1 photo every, couple of weeks, it's going to take me 10 years to get to that level. Or, I don't know, some ridiculous number.
Yeah.
And I'm like, for me to get to that level, I had to be disciplined to actually just keep producing, keep learning. Because like I see all these other, pages and you just see the photos just change over time. And so I just use that as a way of, motivation. I'm like, okay, the 1,000 photo post, 1,000 photo is the mark that I want to hit.
Yeah.
And what do I need to do to get there? Because I feel like that was like I don't know, kind of gamifying it almost. Right. That was the level. Like I need to produce 1,000 photos in order to get to that level.
So cool. Have you reached that 1,000 yet?
No, not even close. Not even close. Yeah. Obviously some people get there faster than the others, but like that was like a little game that I play with myself.
Yeah.
Trying to get that 1,000 photo.
So good.
Yeah.
Awesome. All right, well, we've been going for a bit over half hour now. Pretty consistent. Got the coffee in us.
Yep.
Got some good background. Got some good lessons along the way. So I'm just going to reference my cues because I did have a couple in here that I wanted to get out. Let's have a look. Has there been anything that you have released? So you've given yourself these deadlines now. For a while, and you've been releasing this work based on those deadlines. Are there some that you've released and you really don't like, or that you feel like, that kind of hold you back a bit when you look at them? You go, oh, that wasn't even at the time. That wasn't at the level you were at. Did you ever feel like that about any of this stuff, or have you always just had that attitude of like, I'm just where I'm at when I chuck it up?
Yeah, well, obviously some are not, as good as the other ones, but it's just the best I could do. So and I just leave it there.
So good.
Yeah, I just leave it there. There's no point taking it out. It's just already done. People have seen it. And I don't know. I kind of like looking back through the archive, through the history of change.
Yeah.
So I don't like messing with history per se.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's always fun to look back though. Like, even music and, all the music that you write and stuff like that, looking back at the first song compared to the later song.
Yeah.
It's so fun. So much fun.
So good.
Yeah, it's so good.
That's just awesome attitude all around. Okay, cool, man. So we're going to wrap up with this last question / challenge.
Okay.
All right. So do you have an uncompleted piece of work at the moment, or a small project or a large project, and can you call it done as it is, or spend an hour on it and then call it done? That's my challenge. So is there anything that you've got, whether it be photography, drawing, or even a piece of music that you've got that you said that wasn't ready to be completed, but now we can just call it done and you can post it on social media?
No, I don't think so.
You don't think you got anything like that?
I don't think, no, because it's all big projects.
Okay. Well,
So,
can you think of the smallest project that you've got?
I don't know. Like the only small projects I have are just like photos. And these are small projects. And I guess like the camping trip that I just did, right? So that would be, videos and photos I got to go through. That would be like a medium-sized project, just, a week, 5 days of footage.
Yep.
So
right,
that can't be done in an hour because
way to backfire on like my closing.
There's definitely more than an hour of footage I need to go through. It's like 5 days of footage.
Yeah.
And
okay. What about just like a photo that you've got in your collection somewhere that you could just pull out, and maybe you weren't intending on working on it, and you can just pull that out and either call it done immediately or spend an hour editing it and just post that and hashtag call it done. Get it out there. Do you think you could do that?
Well, I do have like a photo that I've looked into editing.
Okay.
But so at the moment I'm also trying like a different thing with like posting. Just trying to do a little bit more than just a photo.
Okay.
Because I've been asking myself like a question like, how do I provide more value?
Yes.
Like not just posting for the sake of posting.
Mm-hmm.
And so I'm trying to write. So I'm like actually, so one of the things I'm actually actively trying to do is like, as well as posting a photo, editing a photo, I'm actually practicing writing. So trying to write blog posts and a bit of long, medium form writing.
Yes.
So I'm trying to do that like maybe one article a week. Okay. But it's definitely more than an hour. So the photos, yes. The photos I can, like usually photos takes between like 15 minutes to like an hour to edit.
Yep.
And that's what I've been doing in the past. And then just posting that. And so because I've been doing that, and then there's this new thing that I kind of want to try, which is writing and get better at it.
Yeah.
But I don't think I can do that in an hour.
You don't think you can? This is why I want to challenge you. So this is cool because I thought maybe you might have something, like a photo or something lying around that you could think of like, oh yeah, I kind of wanted to post this, but maybe I didn't want to. So I challenge you,
to
Jackson,
write an article in an hour.
Write an article, not necessarily an article, a blog post.
Right.
And just whatever you can do in an hour.
Yeah.
Hashtag call it done.
Like I think maybe I can write a blog post in an hour, but I'm also doing graphics on top of that.
Okay.
So
what? You feel challenged, right?
What can you write and do graphics and also edit? So that means you got 20 minutes each on all of it.
You're already breaking it down, man. You can do it. Do you accept?
No, I don't think.
I was supposed to close my podcast.
Well, the thing is I'm trying to keep to my routine, right? So yes, I understand the purpose of the challenge, but then I'm trying to follow my routine. So it's just a discipline that I'm trying to follow through week by week.
Yeah.
So that is my own challenge I have already for myself.
Damn, you're too good. You're like, I'm already in challenge.
I'm already challenged.
Sorry, dude.
There's already like so much to do already.
Yeah.
Yeah, on top of everything I'm trying to do. So so I think, if you're listening to podcasts, like that's what I'm trying to do week to week.
Yeah.
And see how long I can keep that up.
Cool.
Yeah.
All right then. So what are the handles that people can follow you on the various social medias and your website? Where are the blog posts happening? Where are the photos coming out?
So my Instagram would be jcheng_photography. Jcheng is JCHENG_photography, and then my website is just my full name, jacksoncheng.com, and you can find basically everything there.
Awesome.
And, so that's it.
So good. Thanks so much for being on the first podcast, Jackson.
Thank you for having me.
I'm not hurt by not taking up my challenge. I appreciate that you challenge yourself enough, and that's awesome. And I think that people could learn a lot from how you obsess and break down everything and apply the 80-20 principle to learn and get to the levels that you get to, man, because not many people reach that level, I think. Thanks very much.
All right, thank you.
See ya.